Hello, my name is Isabel López, and I want to introduce you to my assignment, Religion in Postmodern Societies. As I can see, Sweden is supposed to be one of the most non-religious countries in the world, and we can also see this trend in basically Northern European countries, but even in the vast Western countries, more or less, maybe in less proportion, but as well we see this tendency. And what we can see is that in these liberal post-industrial countries, an increasing part of the population has grown up having freedom of thought for granted, especially the last generations. And this is resulting in nowadays in this trend, this new trend that is called self-expression. And this is the new one perspective valued instead. So this is what society tends to go to self-expression of your own beliefs, of your own perspective, instead of the religion or standardized or institutionalized church. Religion is no longer present. What I mean religion, I mean institutionalized church. The church is no longer present in the society. Instead, science and lifestyle has made us evolve and influencing people beholder from a behavioral perspective. So science, lifestyle has is introducing the society instead of religion. We can say, with my own words, I would say that science has become the new religion. Even people tend to say they're atheists, and what they mean, in my perspective, is that they're not religious, they don't follow the church. But it's another thing being spiritual. So you can be atheist, but still spiritual. And within psychology, different therapy models are examples of approaches that can be applied as tools for understanding or explaining religious behavior in very secular countries like Sweden, Northern Europe, etc., among others. So now is psychology who's explaining this needs of finding a meaning in life instead of religion. Overview, we go through introduction, purpose, methodology, statistical analysis, results, and conclusion. Something I want to point out is the importance of science instead of religion. So the changes in science in these societies, non-secular one, non-religious one, I mean secular, opens a new perspective of what we believe was period and change to understand the whole vast world we live in. And it has been a game changer here. We had this normal physics, but now the new quantum physics is giving a door open to make a connection with science in a more spiritual way. So humans in all societies, even in very secular ones, they have this need of trying still to find a meaning of life. We're always searching for what is next, what is life, what is the universe, why we are here, let's say. That's why we go to the moon. So this new physics, this new quantum physics changes may occur both within and outside the context of psychotherapy with certain common features. And this is because quantum physics shows a connection, interconnection with what we see with our senses and not. When we it's like it's really giving us a new perspective that make us to understand what's going on clearly, because interconnect the physical world with the non-physical world, and we can even let us understand things that we couldn't understand before, as people used to just rely on the senses. So to speak, my point here is the quantum physics changes has been a game changer in this new attitude towards, let's say, spirituality or religion experiences. About the quantum physics, the Nobel Prize Albert Einstein used to say, matter is energy, energy is light. We are all light beings. This has a big impact on what we think we are, and if we go to the origin from a physical methodology perspective. Einstein also used to say as well, we know now that energy cannot be created or destroyed. It can only be changed from one form to another. So if everything is energy, we are all connected. We all come from the same source. And this is like the, can be a bridge, can create a bridge between the spiritual ideas and the science. We thought it was true. And the purpose about that is to find a possible connection or not. That's what I'm trying to find here. A possible connection or not between the new findings in science and psychology that are changing the attitude towards religion nowadays in the postmodern secular world we live in. Is there a connection between science, psychology, and the new concepts, the new trends we experiencing, the religion experiences we are living now? The way we live religion, the way we live spirituality in these secular societies, is there a connection between these new trends and the new findings in science and psychology? This is my question. The quantum science, just sort to say, I just want to say, is the study of the subparticles in the universe where everything is created from. And of course, is the future. And the present now, of course. Methodology I follow is I want to make a more holistic perspective. From science perspective, psychology, and sociological perspective. This is the main stance, the main methods I want to analyze this question. My major study I go through is the Ingela Vissery's Swedish multi-method study. It's called the Sensory Supernatural Experiences in Autism. And she did a study with 17 participants among autistic and non-autistic population to see their religious experiences, if there's a difference because of this cognitive aspect of some part of these participants. The results by Angela Vissery in her study shows a broader understanding of religious cognition in autism in comparison to non-autism participants. So yes, autism has a broader understanding of religious cognition, so to say. Oh, in her findings, something very interesting, few of them embodied attribution related to God instead, to supernatural instead, not even in participants from families where there is religious practice. So this is very interesting because the supernatural, the esoteric in a way, for certain, supernatural is instead of religious. So the church is no longer that important as the supernatural. So still the supernatural, the spiritual is as present as it could be in the past, but not from an institutionalized church. The literary review I did is studies from the. I took review from studies from the supernatural by the University of Virginia. They studied the previous life experiences from children, especially up to 7, and NDA experiences, near-death experiences, are research. So how the brain is connected to these spiritual experiences. Number 2, the William James theory of emotion, among others, postulates that emotion occurs as a result of physical responses to events that means psychological responses to stimuli directly cause subjective feelings. And that means that what we feel is related to how we perceive through our senses. And at the end of this chain is the brain, how the brain perceives reality. And from that, we feel. And that has a lot to do with our reactions and so on. But at the end of the day, also, there is a connection with the thalamus. So it's not only how we perceive, but also how we react. It's all interconnected. At the end of the day, is the brain really who does the job to perceive the world. That's very important. So it's not what we see, it's not what we hear, it's how we perceive and interpret what we see. So it's the brain at the end of the day. Another literary review is the Carl Gustav Jung, one of my favorites. According to him, the psyche is a living reality with a known will, with his own life as a product of the seeker's intent. My life is a story of the self-realization of the unconscious, he used to say. Then, from a sociological perspective, I took Durkheim, and he used to say, by workshopping God, people are unwittingly worshipping the power of the collective over them, a power that both created and guides them. They are worshipping society itself. That means also that religion has a function, is part of the, so to say, sociological identity of the society, the collective identity. So by worship religion, we worship our society, and we get together by worshiping one religion, or the main religion in the society. Is part of the identification of the collective, of the society. Something that I like very much is Carl Gustav Jung, that makes understand how we mind works. He used to compare also our mind as an iceberg. Carl Gustav Jung saw human beings as small specks where about 8% is part of the conscious mind, of emerging consciousness, and the rest is the subconscious. So let's say that our mind is done by about 8% consciousness, the rest is the subconscious. So humans, according to Carl Gustav Jung, are individual expressions of the large self, the central archetype of the seeker, whose goals is to become aware. And the meaning of life, according to him, is to make aware, to make conscious the subconscious, unconscious in our mind. That's why life is a learning process, according to Jung. He used to say, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. Carl Gustav Jung. Something interesting I find is Durkheim, he also used to say, there are no gospels which are immortals, but neither is there any reason for believing that humanity is incapable of investing new ones. That means religion, uh, religious experiences, spirituality, finding a meaning in the higher power is part of the society evolution, and religion may change, church may change, rituals may change, but we will have one kind over another type of worship to a higher power, whatever it is, whatever you want to call it. We always find like a higher intelligence that makes sense to everything in life. So rituals may change, but they remain one way or the other, because there's a function in worshiping a higher power for the society. So my results is that therefore somatosensory experiences that occur without external stimuli are more prevalent in autistic individuals. So this is the study that is about the brain, who perceive the world, and that's why autistic children or young children or people have a different way to connect with these somatosensory experiences that closer us to the spiritual experiences. So it's about how we perceive the world. It's a lot to do how our brain are perceiving the world. So there is a connection with the cognitive function of the brain. A broader understanding of religion cognition in autism in comparison to non-autist participants is shown in the study. So because of the autism form of the brain, they have a different way to connect with this kind of activity. Few embodied attributions relate to God. That's important because that means we no longer want to connect to God as it used to be, or religion as it used to be, or church, but supernatural instead, even in participants educated in religious families. So there is a rejection against religion. There is a rejection in these secular societies, in our secular societies, I would say, against religious or church itself. But instead, we go to the supernatural or esoteric, some parts. In societies with freedom of thought for granted, like Sweden, institutionalized religions are no longer as present in the society. As a consequence, that science and lifestyle with social media, among other factors, have evolved, and this influence people's behavior from a behavioral perspective. Yeah, so this is what I come through in my results. So as a conclusion, all these studies has in common that show that findings in research, of course, of the possible connections of the supernatural experiences, even called religious, for some of the people still, and the near activity of the human brain. There is kind of a connection with the activity of the human brain and the experience of the supernatural or religious experiences. It's something about the brain, the perceiving how we perceive the world, and these supernatural experiences. There's something in the brain that makes us more or less connected to these experiences. Our senses and what we think we perceive is influenced by our brain connections, and this is in the study. How we perceive a world is what matter, and very important, we come to the conclusion to a more holistic explanation where body, mind, and emotion synchronize together, in other words, according to these findings. So we are going to a more holistic society where body, mind, and emotion synchronize together instead. So we try to find a whole meaning of this need in finding this answer about life. And what we see in these secular societies is a rejection of their religion as it used to be of church, but instead it's opened really the door to a more holistic explanation of what we perceive as well as our reactions. We experience this self-expression of individual and community self, this need, with a more holistic approach in these postmodern societies. So this need of finding a meaning of life, this try to connect with a higher power, we experiencing through holistic activities, where we can find a connection between body, mind, and emotion, and where science and spirituality can go together. So my conclusion, I would say, is we are going through to a more holistic approach instead, and we see a replacement of their religion experiences in the postmodern societies by this holistic approach. So even if you are not religious, even if you are not going to church, even if you say I'm not religious at all, you are very much influenced by the holistic approach in society as a way to replace the religion experience itself as it was before. Thank you. And for me, I just want to say before I finish, for me it's very interesting to see how science is really getting together, getting closer to our spiritual experiences instead. So why not science and religion together? Thank you very much.